When we initially we were told we were being put on the road, we were told that we were going to be the henchmen for Simon Dean. It was the first ever OVW WWE Tryout camp. I guess I did a fantastic enough job to get the call and work on that WWE contract. Donnie B, his promotion was the first promotion I worked for outside of the Monster Factory. He's a really super awesome guy. I'm just really happy for all the success they're having. Cage and I got along real fast. Jim Cornette said, "Hey, why don't we say that you brought him in?" Our first big match, I went out and won the Southern Tag Team titles. I got to pin Animal, who was a legend in the business.
Yeah.
I was getting ready to call him. They called me first. I just remember they just reached out and they're like, "Hey, we want to bring you in with Sarah Del Rey and Bobby Dempsey." Mike Bucci helped me a lot as well. I ripped off my shirt in the middle of the ring. I went to the back and Vince was like, he said, "You look like a Chippendale."
Ladies and gentlemen, hosted by Coach C, Chris Sanders, this is Best for Business.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the channel. Another episode of Best for Business. I'm absolutely pumped for this one. Tank Toland, man, thank you for joining me for this one.
Absolutely, man. I'm happy to be here. It's a pleasure doing the podcast with you, buddy.
I appreciate it. So I've done a lot of research on you, but I want to hear your perspective. Now, a lot of people like to talk about the Monster Factory. So for you specifically, what was it about the Monster Factory that made you make that jump for pro wrestling?
Well, the Monster Factory was one of the best places I could have absolutely gotten my feet wet, started out and learn in the proper manner. Because, there's so many places out there, backyard places and guys who say, oh, they'll train you, but they've never been anywhere, done anything. They just want to basically, take your money, for the most part. And they want to think that they've done things. And that's all fine and good. I mean, I know some of them probably had their hearts in the right place and they just have a passion for it. But, that doesn't mean that you're necessarily meant to be an instructor when, you haven't necessarily been there, done that type of thing and gotten yourself that kind of experience,
Yeah.
But,
When you started at the Monster Factory, did you have any goals for pro wrestling or anything you really wanted to accomplish at first?
Yeah, I mean, when I first started at the Monster Factory, my main thing was like, I had the passion. I wanted to do it. I wanted to do it. It was always a dream of mine to do it at the highest level I could. And a lot of people thought, I was crazy. I was a short guy and, uh, just when I was a little kid, I was a pipsqueak and that's kind of how it was. But I always had that passion. And when I was in college, it really like I was still a fan, but I met, other guys and a couple close friends of mine that were really into it like I was. And I really dug into it then hard in college. And I was like, you know what? I really want to like just find a good place to train and just if anything, I'll get my college degree and I could just be a weekend warrior and, maybe, learn how to wrestle and do some small shows and who knows what's going to happen from there. But I just wanted to at least give it a shot. So I didn't ever look back with regret and say, I wish I had tried.
Yeah. So one thing you were talking about, so right now I'm a sophomore in college, but for you, when you first graduated college, what was it like balancing work at the time? I think, were you teaching and wrestling?
Yeah. When I first started, I go to Monster Factory Thursday, Friday, Saturdays, and Sundays. So after work, after I get done teaching, I'd go to work on. I mean, I'd go to the factory on Thursdays, Fridays, and then train all day Saturday and Sunday. And so it was just something you did, and you just balanced it. But you just when you have such a passion for something, you wish you could just do it every day. I wish I could have been in that ring every day, and eventually I was lucky enough to have that opportunity. But yeah, I mean, so for the first couple years, I basically just kind of balanced those two. And then the last year I actually stopped teaching to try and focus more on the wrestling. And I had a friend who owned a fitness store, and so he let me manage it and run it, and just be able to travel and do shows when ever I needed to. I didn't have to worry about school schedule or anything like that. So it really worked out well, and that kind of was a good opportunity for me as well.
So when you were doing the fitness store, when did OVW come in play? Was that after the fitness store when you really put your mindset to it?
No, it was actually right when I was managing this
Okay.
store. I was managing that store for probably about, like, I guess maybe 6 months or so, and I just I had the OVW tryout. It was the first ever OVW WWE tryout camp at OVW, and I went there. I guess I did a fantastic enough job to get the call from Jim Cornette inviting me to be part of the OVW family and work on that WWE contract. And I mean, so it was right from there. I just went to OVW, and it was phenomenal.
Do you remember anyone else who got picked for that camp?
Yeah, I do. If let's see who else. There was the Beast, who was Chad Gaspard, who was part of Crime Time. Rest in peace. Awesome guy. Loved him. Everyone loved him. He's such a good guy, big guy.
Yeah.
But I mean, he was always such a good guy too, and had a great sense of humor and a good heart, and just one of the nicer guys in the business.
Yeah.
So he was one of them. And then Mike Mondo, who is part of the Spirit Squad, and he's obviously still out there right now. I think he's doing some not TNA, NWA stuff, for Corrigan's stuff. Let's see who else was there. Gosh, I'm trying to remember who else was there. There was a good set of names there. I would say. I'd say probably there was about a few others that actually, got contracts eventually. But I mean, it was crazy because out of thousands and thousands of applicants around the world for that camp, they took 50 people for the tryout camp, and now that tryout camp, I think they took 10 to 12
Wow.
to come and train and work towards a developmental contract. So
Wow.
yeah.
What did it feel like to you to finally get that call from Jim Cornette? Like you said at first, after college, you were focusing on teaching and then wrestling on the weekends and then training some nights. But then eventually you put everything into pro wrestling to finally get that call and get selected.
Yeah, I mean, man, it's one of the things. There's certain events in my life, and I have a terrible memory with certain things, but there's certain memories in my life that I will never forget. And one of them is getting that call from Jim Cornette. And I remember where I was standing in the store. I remember the phone ringing and me taking it and how nervous I was. And I just remembering the excitement. Because I mean, if I'm getting a call from them, I was like, I don't think everyone's going to get a call saying they aren't going. I think you're only going to get a call if you are. So I was like, I was trying to be positive and manifest good things. And sure enough, I got that call. And when he was just like, "Hey, Doc, Jim Cornette here." And I was like, when he said, "You want to come out and be part of the OVW family," I literally had to take the phone away for a minute and be like a little teenage girl, like,
Yeah.
like so excited. And also because I was a fan of his, because he's such a legend himself, and such an incredible part of the business. But I was totally like stoked to get the opportunity. So yeah, I couldn't wait to get out there. And luckily I was in a job where my friend who owned the store, he was like, "Yeah, whenever you're ready." Yeah. So I said, "Jim, give me 2 weeks and I'll be out there." So yeah, so I moved out there on Derby weekend, 2003. Yeah.
So before we talk about OVW, you did a podcast recently. I think it was called The Burning Hammer, and you mentioned somebody that I want to ask your opinion on now. I don't hear his name often, but he's one of my favorite minds in pro wrestling. Do you have any stories with Big 80's Donnie B or Phoenix Championship Wrestling or anything with Phoenix Championship Wrestling?
Donnie B. Yeah, Donnie B. Actually, Donnie B, his promotion was the first promotion I worked for outside of the Monster Factory. Because the Monster Factory was in South Jersey,
Mhm.
and Donnie B ran mainly out of Tom's River area, which is in the more towards the central part of New Jersey, and I just knew that yeah, had to get in somewhere. I was like, okay, I'm gonna try and get in up here because you go wherever you can, But I went up there with my gear bag, and I was like, all right. I knew that the backseat boys were not going to be showing for that show because they're double booked.
Mm.
I heard it through the grapevine that
Oh yeah.
they're going to just basically no show him. And so I was like, all right, I'm not going to get in the middle of it and try and throw anyone under the bus or dime anyone out. But I am going to be there with my ring bag. I mean, my gear bag, and I'm going to be ready. So I went up there and I introduced myself. I said, "Hey, Donnie, it's nice to meet you. I'm Tank Toland," I said John Toland. I'm not going to give him my ring name like that. So Mark. But no, I was just like, hey, how you doing, John Toland? I just wanted to, if you need me for anything, I hear I have my bag, and just in case. He goes, oh, okay, thanks, nice to meet you. I said, and if you need hand with the gear, with the ring or anything, let me know. Okay, great. And like not even like 20 minutes to a half hour after, I see him on the phone in like in the hallway, just like, what do you mean you're double? What do you mean you're double? What do you mean you're not going to be here? I was like, all right. I'm gonna stay close by. So sure enough, I just was like standing right around, like, and he hung up the phone. You could just see he was not happy. And he's like, hey. He's like, you said you got your bag, your gear bag, right? I said, yeah. He goes, all right, cool. I can use you tonight. I say, all right, awesome, thanks, man, thank you. And that was the first match I was in. I ended up being in a match with Gilbert. It was me and Gilbert versus another tag team called the Power Twins, and it was it was an entertaining match, not in the best of ways because
Yeah.
hey, I was still green. I mean, I was green, but trained well. But I mean, as far as like working with other people and what they wanted to do and all the crazy stuff they wanted to do, I wasn't really used to that kind of work. I was used to calling it in there or very little planning of anything because that's kind of the right way to be taught.
Yeah.
Work on the fly. Because I think that's an important part of it, not just calling a bunch of spots and knowing everything move before the show goes on.
Yeah.
So yeah. But Donnie B, awesome guy,
Yeah.
gave me a shot, and that's also how I got to know Nova. Mike, Simon Dean, and yeah, it was pretty cool from there. So I got to meet some guys. I also got to meet a couple other good friends. One of my really good friends. That I got to meet, who also was invited to the camp. AJ Bafumo, also known as Power Child.
Yeah.
Who worked for them, and now he's really hit it big as from the Costco boy. He's one of the Costco guys with him and his son.
Did you ever wrestle him?
I have. We have wrestled. We actually wrestled. We wrestled together. We did a show down in Tennessee. One time, and I think we did a few shows together, and I think I actually wrestled against him maybe in PCW once or twice because I was a heel in PCW.
Yeah.
And it was a good time, and he's a really super awesome guy, and I love him and his family. They're really good people, so I'm just really happy for all the success they're having. So yeah.
Yeah, so one of the things you mentioned when you first started in Phoenix Championship Wrestling, it was a tag team. However, throughout your career, whether it was OVW, WWE, you had a lot of stints with tag team wrestling. So what are your overall takes on tag team wrestling? Obviously, you had different partners throughout your careers, but seeing especially where tag team wrestling is now.
Yeah, I mean, tag team wrestling, it's really funny because I feel like it brings such a different dynamic to shows and to stories. And I feel like it's underutilized most of the time in promotions. And I don't know if it's because the writers don't know how to write storylines for it, or the bookers don't know how to book it properly and to book angles for, a long term. And, because there's so much you could do with tag teams, whether it be tag teams that are just like, they've been together for a long time, or guys you're teaming up that either are both heels or both faces, or one of each, and you're telling storylines. I mean, there's so many things that you could do with tag team wrestling, and it's just it baffles me how it's not used in a better manner. But I think also part of the problem is that because of that, it's almost like a circle. It's like it's not used as much, maybe also because stories can't be told properly, and then sometimes because also the wrestlers don't have enough experience as a tag team to know the psychology of tag team wrestling, because there's so much more involved in the tag team match than just like going out there and wrestling and telling your basic story. There's a lot more components, because now obviously you're working in a team, and there's certain things that you're trying to bring to that as well. There's different layers to tag team wrestling that are different from singles wrestling. So I think it's underutilized, and I think that there's been times in the business, whether it be WWE or WCW, where they had fantastic tag teams, divisions going on, and some good stories and some really fun matches to watch. And but I feel like it never sticks, and I just feel like they're really dropping the ball by not sticking to that. And I think, like, that is one of the most important things about a show, is bringing those different dimensions like this, especially like with the cruiserweight division and the women's division, and the different types of, when they had the hardcore division, and just all the different things. It's like it just brings different dynamics, so it's not the same. It's you could even have the same stories but different types of matches and stuff. It just makes it more interesting to me. So yeah.
So when we talk tag teams, do you remember the first time you met Chris Cage?
Yeah, man. I remember I just got into OVW, and it was him and Johnny Jeter, who was also one of the guys in the Spirit Squad.
Yeah.
And it's really funny because they're just there, and they're relatively new themselves there. They'd probably been there for maybe maybe a year, maybe. And they just seem like super like laid back. They seem like surfer dudes, like hey, what's up, man? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And they're just super nice guys. I hit it off with them real quick. Cage and I got along real fast, and it's funny because I wasn't even supposed to be in a tag team when it first started out. It was just the fact that Mike, or Nova, injured his knee, and he was actually originally partners with Chris Cage in the tag team Adrenaline, and he hurt his knee, had to get surgery, and because we had the Jersey connection, and his brother and I worked for his brother, Jim Cornette, said, "Hey, why don't we say that you brought him in, and he's gonna be stepping in for you because you're injured, and then they'll go and do the tag team." And that's kind of how that came together. Because before that, I was doing some. My first couple matches were singles matches against Doug Basham and Randy Orton. So I mean, that was. Then all of a sudden I got thrown into the tag team thing, and that went great because we got pushed to the moon. Jim Cornette is a big tag team guy, obviously, and he really liked me, so I got a lot of opportunity, and I was really really thankful for it. So,
do you have a favorite Adrenaline match that sticks out to you?
Man, I have I have a lot of matches I just enjoyed overall, but I would say that the matches that we would wrestle, the Jersey Shore crew, which was Mike Bucci or Nova, and then Aaron Stevens, who was Damien Sandow, and then sometimes it would also be Trudy DiNucci, she would come out, and then Danny Giamondo or Danny Inferno. Yeah, it was a lot of fun, man. I mean, like, we just had a lot of fun. We had a lot of good story angles. I enjoyed working them the most, I'd say. But we had some good matches with the Disciples of Sin, with Seven and Tomko rather. Yeah. So yeah, Travis Tomko. That's it. So, but yeah, I mean, just had some good matches. And just it was fun. It was a lot. When I first got there, they wanted me to be a really sugary, sweet fired up baby face,
Mhm.
and that's good. I mean, I get it, but it was a little tough because, you know, when you're trying to be so, hey, that, come
Yeah.
on, it's like, I wanted to be a baby face, but not too sugary sweet. But hey, look, the fans liked it
Yeah.
and they enjoyed it, and I still loved it. I'd probably say being an adrenaline was my favorite part of my experience at OVW, as far as being a tag team partner with Chris
Mhm.
and the fun we had, and, winning and having a good time, and being pushed. That was great. But I also had an equally good time being a heel.
Yeah.
I just wish it could have been under different circumstances with the different partner and all that
Mhm.
and blah blah blah. But I loved being a heel. Being a heel is fantastic.
Yeah. So when we talk OVW, obviously it meant a lot when you got that call from Jim Cornette. But looking back, obviously being the former OVW heavyweight champion and what is it, a 4-time tag team champion?
I think 5 times.
Five
I,
times,
I think
over
I think
300
yeah.
days. What does that mean to you?
Um, it means that they had a lot of um belief in me
Hmm.
because and they thought I was good enough to um carry the title and make it good and put on good matches, quality matches. You know, do a lot of good events and just really be able to turn it up,
Yeah.
and I think that it showed, being able to, I mean, a title is meant to help push someone and
Hmm.
push a career, you don't, and so I think that was their way of saying, hey, we believe in you, so here's the title, we want to push you, and that's really cool. And then eventually, you get to the point where you don't need a title
Hmm.
because you're already up there. Like, someone like, and I'm not trying to put myself in the same league as any of these people, but I'm
Yeah.
saying you don't need to put a title on Stone Cold or The Rock or Undertaker or any of these other big names, Jericho or whoever. You know, they don't need a title to
Hmm.
to be over, and they don't need a title. They've already had that. But I mean, it's still cool when they get it,
Yeah.
because as a fan, you still want them to win because that's kind of who you root for or whatever. But yeah, guys like that, or nowadays, Cody Rhodes doesn't need a tag team belt, or
Mhm.
or what's this from the why is this slipping in my mind? From the bloodline, what is it?
Roman?
Roman, yeah.
Yeah.
Roman doesn't need a
Yeah.
title, but when you're the top dogs, you're expected to be in the hunt and have the title and trade it back and forth and what have you. And so yeah, so I mean, but it was a big deal for me to be able to have that put upon me, and I just am so thankful and grateful for all the opportunity I had from the family at OVW, and that's what we were. We were
What
family for
was like a day in the life at OVW?
sure. Um, First off, let me say, excellent interview.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You were asking such good questions,
Thank you.
and I love it. And it's not, it's definitely a lot of different questions that are still, fantastic, and different. That's
Yeah.
good.
Thank you very much.
Um, but yeah, I would say a day in the life of OVW. It depends on when I when I was there.
Yeah.
When I first got there, it was Rip Rogers running the show, and it was okay. We're going to be in the ring by 7:30,
Hmm.
warming up, bumping by 8. And so we already have the sweat going before 8 o'clock in the morning, and then we get in there and we'd run drills, run drills, run drills, and then you know blow us up, which is good because
Yeah.
by a certain point you're so conditioned you don't get blown up. You know
Hmm.
how to pace yourself and stuff, and then we do uh man, we do like an hour of chain wrestling where it's just everybody's, either in the ring or outside the ring, and you're chain wrestling each other for a straight hour.
Hmm.
And then, he'll blow the whistle switch and you just switch to another partner. You're working on different things. And it was great because you're working with a lot of different people. You're just chain wrestling, free flowing, and just kind of not getting too in your head, and you're just working on things, and
Yeah.
really awesome. We do pin drills and all these other things, and like so many cool drills that he did, and really help not only get you in great condition, but really help get you comfortable with not thinking,
Mhm.
just going with the moment, going with the feeling, and not overthinking things, and and also communicating. Sometimes communicating without communicating.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
nonverbal type stuff, and just feeling each other out. And it was really awesome. And that's how you really got good. Because I mean, I'll say like, getting my start in at the Monster Factory was fantastic,
Mhm.
and it was a really good uh kind of like wrestling 101 to get me started and to get me, to work on, you know, all the very fundamentals and the basics. And but when I got to OVW and I'm learning from, Rip Rogers and all the guys that would come down, and then Lance Storm and Al Snow and all these other guys, and other great workers that were there at the time.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a whole other, it was like going to the big leagues.
Mhm.
It's like going to the big leagues, and you really got that education, and you just stepped it up to a whole other level, which is fantastic. So yeah, so we do that. We get blown up, and then we take a break, and then we have matches, and Rip would just call random matches. Okay, this is what we're doing. We're going. You you guys are going, and you guys are going, then you guys are going. This is you have 5 minutes here. You guys got 7 minutes. I went through, and then he might switch it up on you
Mhm.
out of nowhere, and then and then sometimes he'd be like, okay, Iron Man, all right, and then he'd call out two people, and they'd have to work an hour, and
Wow.
we just sit there and watch them work for an hour,
All on
and
the
it's
fly?
on the fly,
Old school.
work for an hour, and you can't help but to get good
Mhm.
when you have someone like Rip teaching you. You can't help to get good when you are being put with all these other talented people, and you're being set up for success in the business when you were at OVW at that time. I mean, just it was phenomenal. And same can be said when Lance Storm was there, and I was learning from Lance Storm. I mean, he would have us do matches, and then he goes, "Okay, well, you have 5 minutes. I want you to end this match when you hear it's time to go home or whatever." He'd basically say, "Okay, I want you to end this match within 10 to 20 seconds of
Yeah.
what the actual time was. If it's a 5 minute match, he wants it like no longer than 20 seconds before that 5 minutes."
Nice. Yeah.
And so you got so good. Sometimes you were hitting it within 5 seconds because you just
Wow.
could feel
Yeah.
it. You could feel the time, and you knew. And but and then they'd switch things up, and they'd be like, "All right, we're going 3 minutes, take it home." And you
Wow.
thought you had five, now you got three. Go take it
Yeah.
home. Or the exact opposite. You had five, now you're going 10. And
Wow.
then yeah, so and when you had all of a sudden it stretched to 10, and you were just almost like getting ready to take it home, and you're starting to get a little blown because you were like giving it all, you're all at the
Mhm.
end. And you're like, oh, okay, we're gonna have to do a little switch up here. So
Wow.
yeah, I mean, it was always something different. It was the same and different all the time,
Mhm.
but it was always educational, and it was always awesome. And Wednesdays were always the best days because those were the TV days.
Nice.
We go in, and it was awesome. We have a short practice, and then we go and meet up for the show and go over the show. And Jimmy would be there, and Danny Davis would be there, and they'd go over everything. And that's where you learned a whole other part of education from the psychological standpoint of things, and promos and things like that. With ring psychology, because he brought something else. Those guys would bring something else. It was always awesome, and the TV side of it, learning how to
Yeah.
work TV. So yeah, sorry that
So
was a long answer, but
no, of course. That was something I was interested in. So when we talk your career, whether it was either Monster Factory days or OVW or WWE, what do you think was like your first big opportunity in pro wrestling?
first big opportunity. I mean, are we talking on like indies, or are we talking
Well, for
WWE?
indies, for somebody at first who wanted to train, this was the passion. What do you think was like your first like big like I don't want to say like reality check, but like you're here doing this in pro wrestling.
I mean, it was really cool when I first. I mean, like there was a few different things like,
Mhm.
like I told you, when I first got to work a match outside of, you
Yeah.
know, of a Monster Factory, I felt like, okay, that's cool. Okay, that's a first step,
Mhm.
but like the real first step was like, training at the Monster Factory. And then I got my first match. And my very first match, I had been working there. I had been training for a while, but very first match, they decided to put the heavyweight title on me,
Wow.
and beat Cliff Compton, who was he was one of the he was Domino from
Yeah. Oh
Deuce and
yeah.
Domino. Yeah, and but like, yeah, they just said, okay, well, we're just gonna, throw surprises. Your very first match, you're gonna go out there and you're gonna win the title. And I was like, oh, I was like, all right. And
Yeah.
so that was cool, because I was like, oh my gosh, first match in pro wrestling, I'm getting the title. I
Not
was like,
many
this,
people could say they did that.
no, yeah, yeah. You're usually doing a lot of jobbing and stuff
Mhm.
in the beginning, and man, that's what I was saying. Like, I was very fortunate to have the opportunities in the business that I had, up to a point in WWE anyway.
Yeah.
But but yeah, man, I was really lucky for people to believe in me and to give me the opportunities that I had. So that was one of them, the first one, and then obviously, like I said, wrestling outside. But I would say, um, really, like when I first got to OVW and got
Mhm.
to wrestle my first couple matches there, because Jimmy and Danny liked what they saw, and Dr. Tom liked what they saw to bring me out, and basically was like, hey, um we want to put your first television match, we want to put you against Doug Basham, who was the champion at the time.
Oh yeah.
They're like, okay, and I was like, and they're like, okay, so I did the job, but they were like, we're gonna make you look good though,
Nice.
and so they gave me plenty for my first match. I didn't just job out,
Yeah.
and which was awesome. And then the very next week, they decided to put me in there against Randy Orton, and so I mean, like, these were things. So I was like, oh my gosh, I'm like, I'm really doing this here,
Yeah.
and so that was really, really crazy. So like those moments, and then right after that is when Nova had just gotten hurt, and they decided to put me with Cage, and our first big match, I went out and won the Southern Tag Team titles,
Wow.
and so that was, it was like off to the races. It was, yeah, I was, it was like, in a way, it's like I was just on a rocket,
Mhm.
and it was pretty awesome,
Yeah.
so. Um, it definitely helped with my confidence and
Mhm.
believing in myself, and knowing like I had made the right move.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah,
So when we talk about the beginning of WWE, didn't you do stuff at first where you guys were just like attacking opponents, was it?
yeah, yeah.
Whose idea was that? And like how is it like told to you?
Yeah, it's funny because when we initially we were told we were being put on the road, we were told that we were going to be the henchmen for Simon Dean.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and we were just going to be like his lackeys, and come out, and because we're like, buff guys
Mhm.
and all jacked up, and all that, and I guess we were going to kind of be his muscle, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And he'd be a good, like, probably the good heel that would kind of beg off from things, and then we'd attack.
Mhm.
But for some reason, I don't know how it got switched up, but one night they just said, "Okay, we want you guys to run out from the crowd, and just take out, whoever's in the ring, at the end of the match, whoever's in there, you just take them out, and
Mhm.
whoever wins, you go in there, whoop on them, and then boom, and then take off again."
Yeah.
So we did that for a few weeks, and they were like, "Oh, who are these guys? We don't know who they are." And then one time they did say, "Oh, that's the Tolands." Taz says, that I know, that's the Tolands."
Nice.
And which was, I was like, okay, I guess we'll be the Tolands. But then that went away real quick. I
Mhm.
don't know, yeah. So, but you know, heaven forbid you use a real name,
Yeah.
so doesn't have their mark on it.
Yeah.
But yeah. So anyway, and so because I was like, cool, I'm gonna be Tank Toland in WWE. That's
Yeah.
friggin' awesome. So, but yeah, so that was short lived, because, and I tell the story that, is basically what had happened. And I think kind of what made us become what we were, unfortunately, was because I ripped off my shirt in the middle of the ring after, beating up on someone, and I threw it, and I went to the back, and Vince was like, he said, you look like a Chippendale. I like the way you look, when you ripped your shirt off, and I was like, he's like, next week, come back with an outfit,
Yeah.
so I was like, all right. So, but meanwhile, I'm like, okay, I guess that we're doing this. So
Yeah.
got our stuff made up, and then we showed him the next week, and he's like, "Oh, I love it. I love it."
Wow.
And that's kind of how it all started with the Dicks. Yeah.
Yeah. So looking back at your career in WWE, what would you say were some of your favorite moments or maybe matches that you've had?
WWE was interesting
Yeah.
because such such a different environment up there.
Yeah.
Uh, and a lot of guys will tell you that, or you'll probably hear it a lot.
Mhm.
Which for the longest time, no one would say anything about it because
Yeah.
you just didn't want to get buried in the business, or you just want, yeah. But yeah, I mean, it was kind of a shitty locker room overall,
Yeah.
unfortunately. Yeah, but you know, I I would say that it was still, I still had, even though it was a kind of a negative vibe in the locker room and kind of cancerous because of some of the people there,
Yeah.
which, that wouldn't fly nowadays, not even a little bit.
Mhm.
But I mean, I still had some positive times. I really liked working I liked working Spanky
Oh
and
yeah.
London, like Kendrick and yeah, and London. They're fun. They're a lot of fun to work. Working with Scotty Too Hottie and Funaki, that was really cool. And then we worked with the Mexicools, and then we had our little thing going with Animal and
Heidenreich?
Heidenreich. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So we had some fun times. I mean, it was really cool when we got to beat them over in Manchester, England. That was a really cool thing because that's like that's just kind of a neat experience to be, in another country. And then I got to pin Animal, who was, a legend in the
Yeah.
business when it came to tag teams and stuff. So that was pretty wild. But it was a good time overall. But I'd say my favorite memory, of it was when I got to wrestle in basically what I would consider my hometown,
Nice.
which would be Philadelphia, when we got to wrestle at the Wells Fargo Center, which is where basically when I was a kid, it used to be you'd go watch wrestling at the Spectrum,
Mhm.
Philadelphia Spectrum, where the Flyers played. And then and so like I was like, oh my gosh, this is basically where I grew up. I
Yeah.
was like, this is my dream come true. I'm finally living it. And then because I remember like right before I started in wrestling, I was in college and I went to one of the shows. I went to a WCW show um at the Wachovia Center. It was the Wachovia. Now it's how it always changes
Yeah.
names.
Yeah.
Then it was the Wachovia Center. Now it's the Wells Fargo Center. But I went with my best friend. We went to one of the Monday night. It was Nitro. Went to
Yeah.
one of the Nitros and sat there and I just was looking out there. I was like, oh my gosh! I was like, I just got to do this. I just got to do this. I want this so bad. And I was like, I gotta try. And I was just like picturing myself there, like how awesome that would be. And then we had friends that worked security at Wells Fargo, and they knew where the wrestlers, what hotels they were staying at. So after we went there, like like Marks would do, and then we
Mhm.
went there, and I went and met, and I got a picture with Benoit,
Nice.
who I showed later. I showed later when I was actually in. I say, hey man, I was like, I just want to let you know, man. Like I was always a huge fan of yours. I just want to let you know, that I appreciate your work. I think you're awesome. And I said, here's a picture of us. He goes, oh my God, that's amazing that you
Wow.
have this. And so it was really cool, and he appreciated it. He really did. And he's one of the guys that actually was nice to me overall up there. But like him, and I got to meet like Eddie Guerrero and Chavo Guerrero and Diamond Dallas Page, and I actually, one of the coolest things I did was like, I mean, for me at the time it was so cool. But but later when you're up there, it's not so much fun. It's not as
Yeah.
much fun. But I walked right in between Ric Flair and Arn Anderson, and I ordered a beer.
Wow.
And it was really cool. And I was like, holy crap, here I am. I'm like right
Wow.
between some of the Four Horsemen. And I was like, and they're shooting the shit with Miss Elizabeth that was sitting right next to them. And it was really just a really cool deal. So yeah.
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 So one of my favorite parts about your career, I'm curious at the time how it came to be. How did the opportunity for Ring of Honor start for you?
Ring of Honor, basically, when I got released from the WWE, Punk, I was friends with Punk, and he's like, hey man, he's like, I'm so sorry, man, that they let you go, but I already put the call out to Ring of Honor, and I let them know that you're on the market, and just give him a call. He goes, let him know, let him know that you're interested. And he goes, because they already know that they're already expecting your call.
Wow.
So I was getting ready to call them. They called me first, but it was cool. And I was like, hey, yeah, it's like, and they're like, hey, look, here's the deal. And they're like, we like your work. And luckily, I think they knew my work outside of
Yeah.
WWE, because the unfortunate part about the WWE, and one of the things I kind of have a bad taste or regret inside of me is that I never really got to show what my ability was
Mhm.
to my full extent. And that kind of just stinks, because that's the main stage. That's where most people are watching. So and for me, you know, I I feel like I didn't get to give everybody or show everybody what I really had.
Yeah.
So that's the way it goes sometimes. But yeah, so basically, I was gonna get in touch with Ring of Honor regardless. But Punk kind of already had put it out there, and he was cool enough to do that. And next thing I know, they're like, hey, look, yeah, we want to bring you in, but like, just they're like, how do you feel about working heel? And I was like, I love it.
Nice.
And they're like, okay, well, here's the deal, like, we'll bring you in, but just so you know, like, you're not just going to go crushing people right off the bat or anything like that. Like, you're coming from the WWE, and, our fan base, they're not, big fans of like WWE wrestlers, because, it's just a whole different vibe and feel,
Yeah.
which I get it. I know how
Yeah.
the indies are. Ring of Honor was, fantastic organization back then. And just they were killing it with crowds,
Mhm.
such hot crowds.
Yeah.
And so I went in there, and I was like just happy to do whatever they wanted to give me. And so they said, well, what do you want to do? And I said, they're like, well, first they said, hey, we're thinking about putting you with Larry Sweeney, Sweet and Sour,
Oh yeah.
Sweeney, who's phenomenal.
Mhm.
And putting him in that faction. And I was like, cool. And I was like, how about I'm just like, the all natural superior tank athlete, Tank Toland,
Mhm.
because I'm like, 200, and at this point I was like 230 pounds at my height, with just jacked with abs, and I look like I'm gassed out of my mind, like look
Yeah.
like I'm juiced up. And I was like, I'm just going to go out there and just like tout about how I'm just like the most superior natural athlete there is in the business and all this, and just get more heat for myself.
Yeah.
So, and then I had Bobby Dempsey with me,
Mhm.
who, what a phenomenal kid he is,
Yeah.
or was. He's such a good guy, man, now obviously. But
Mhm.
so we had a lot of fun, and they really kind of let me be me, which was great, because I didn't get to really totally do that, and the company I was with right before that.
Yeah.
So um so yeah, so it was really awesome. And we want to talk about another awesome locker room.
Mhm.
That was an awesome locker room with incredible talent at the time.
Yeah.
And you're talking, at that time that I was there, you had Brian Danielson,
Mhm.
um, or when Daniel Bryant.
Yeah.
Uh, you had Claudio Castagnoli, who's Cesaro,
Yeah.
Chris Hero, who God, he should have. He could have been big in WWE.
Mhm.
You had Evan was Evan Bourne, who was Matt
Yeah.
Sydal. And then you had Colt Cabana, who they
Mhm.
forget that. I mean, he was a talented guy. And I mean, God, I mean, just trying to think of other people that were up there at the time. Oh, you had um Kevin
Yeah.
Steen. And you had Sami Zayn.
Mhm.
So,
El
I mean,
Generico.
like,
Yeah.
there was a ton of talent, man. I
Yeah.
mean, like, so much talent. And then you had other guys that never made it up there, like Hunter, who was delirious,
Mhm.
and other guys, and just like really good workers. And I'm sure I'm forgetting a few others. Oh God, yeah, I am. God, oh my God, there's so many people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so many.
Yeah, so one of the things I want to ask you about Ring of Honor, it was towards I think the end for you in Ring of Honor. It was a staple at first. What about being in part of Steel Cage War?
Oh, yeah, man, that's hard to remember. What happened in that?
Adam Pearce was in. I forgot who was on one side. I remember Adam Pearce was on. I was watching it the other day. I came across it, but it was like it's like their war game style match.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
right. With the
yeah,
cage and everything. Right,
yeah,
right. You know what's funny? Like I said, I don't remember a lot of things. And that's one of the ones I can't remember very
yeah,
well. And I have to go. I'm gonna have to go back and watch it.
yeah.
But I remember I do remember there was some blood. I don't know if I bled, but I don't but if I did, I didn't do it intentionally. That's one thing I never did. I never bled intentionally. I
Mm.
never gigged myself or anything like that. They weren't paying me enough. So
And
yeah.
then the other thing that sticks out to me, especially at the time where you were doing it, what was it like, and how did the opportunity come to be a part of the King of the Trios? Because that was huge.
Yeah, man, that was awesome. They like I what Mike Quackenbush was I mean like a big part of that, right?
Hmm.
And I just remember they just reached out and they're like, "Hey, we want to
Nice.
bring you in with Sarah Del Rey and Bobby Dempsey."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Absolutely. This will be so much fun." Because that was a yeah, you're right. That was the King of Trios was a big thing. And it
Especially
was a
during that time.
yeah, yeah, and it was a lot of fun. It
Mm.
was a lot of fun, and I mean, it was good to do something in that manner with that group outside of Ring of Honor,
Yeah.
and a lot of fun. Yeah, so yeah, unfortunately, like I tore my bicep. It and that's kind of what stopped. That's kind of what ended me wrestling with Ring of Honor
Mm.
because I was catching one of the Briscoe brothers coming outside the ring, and when I went to catch him, my arm got caught on Bobby Dempsey's shoulder, and it snapped and just tore the tendon right off the bone. So yeah, so then and I knew that was torn because I had already torn the other one a couple years before in
Wow.
OVW, and so I was like, yep, I did it again.
Yeah.
So yeah, so unfortunately that kind of messed me up,
So when you look back at your career, who would you say are like some of your biggest mentors?
man. I mean, Rip Rogers
Hmm.
is a big one. And then I'm gonna have to say I had to go right off the bat with Rip Rogers, Jim Cornette, and then Lance Storm and Al Snow,
Yeah.
because these were guys that were there every day, um, training us, molding us, and really helping us. And then Danny Davis was just a good mentor, just because he was a good guy, really knew how to run the business, and just he was like a second dad,
Nice.
and he was like the dad of the OVW family, But and you had crazy fun Uncle Al and
Yeah.
Rip, which is Rip was insane and just awesome. And then and then just Lance Storm, I had so much respect for Lance and Al, even more like, I was always a fan of theirs, but like I have such respect for them as workers because I got to see them in different ways. I got to see what their thought process was and really learn from them from a psychological standpoint and an in-ring. And I mean, I gotta say, like, Lance Storm, man, he's phenomenal. He's
Yeah.
so smooth, so athletic, so incredible with his psychology and he's almost too smooth sometimes. It's like it's just
Yeah.
so and he could go, man. He just did it seemed like he never got winded. Him and
Hmm.
like two of the guys I always was really impressed by that could just go. Like he was impressive, but also Billy Gunn.
Hmm.
Man, Billy Gunn, I mean, I remember Billy Gunn was at OVW working a few times. And I remember he would go and go, and you just see him bump, 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 like crazy. And he wouldn't seem like he's winded. Then he'd go
Wow.
pen to the back and just puke, but you wouldn't
Yeah.
know it. You wouldn't know it.
Yeah.
And it's really crazy. But those are like some of the really, good mentors for me, when it comes to that. I mean, when I was up there in WWE, I mean, I learned from some guys and but as far as mentors go, they were the tops. And then Mike Bucci helped me a lot as
Yeah.
well. Mike was a good guy when he came to bouncing questions off him and seeing what his thought was as far as psychology and just general business stuff. So yeah.
And what would you say has like been your favorite place you got to see through wrestling with traveling? Or like a favorite venue you got to perform in through wrestling?
Well, I mean, like it's cool when I got to work at the Tokyo, like in Tokyo and
Yeah.
Thailand and Mexico, England, all that and stuff. But I'm still gonna say Wachovia. I mean, the Wells Fargo Center because
Yeah.
that was my home. It was cool when we got to do a sold out Staples Center, so and I could pretty much take credit me specifically only for selling out that place. Obviously,
Yeah.
it was only because I was there that they sold out.
Awesome.
Nothing to do with it being Undertaker or Batista or anyone
All
else.
you.
It's all me.
Nice.
But no, I mean it was cool to go to some of those places. But I mean, I'm still gonna say that in my heart, OVW is still my favorite arena, and it
Nice.
always will be. I mean, it's where I really got to be the best version of myself from a wrestling standpoint I could be. Yeah,
Nice.
so yeah, and it's got the best fans. Well, I had the best fans. I mean, don't get me wrong, Ring of Honor fans were awesome. WWE fans are great,
Yeah.
but I mean, I guess I was there every week, and
Mhm.
I really got to know the fans, and they really have an incredible appreciation for wrestling there, and it's just a phenomenal. And hey, that's where I met my future wife.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
yeah, all the way back then, and now we're just getting ready to get married, and we're actually, I actually just got done. I just sent a message to Al asking him if he'd mind if I did the ceremony in the OVW ring. So,
Wow. That's awesome.
yeah, yeah, and she doesn't know it yet, but he just gave the thumbs up. So I'm
Nice.
looking at it right now as I say it. So yeah. So yeah.
Wow. So since getting hurt from Ring of Honor and that stuff happened, and I see once in a while you do some indies. I see Lucky Pro Wrestling coming up. So what's the status? You get in the ring once in a while, or what are you doing?
I'm not that old yet, man.
Yeah. What are the
No,
goals nowadays?
I get hey man, I can still go. I'm still in good
Nice.
shape. And
Yeah.
I'll be honest, man. I'm knock on wood.
Yeah.
I'm really fortunate to um be in the shape I'm in, considering, bumps I've taken over the years. And I think I just attribute it to having, you know, well, good genes, but also training real hard my whole life, and really having a good work ethic, and not letting myself just fall apart like
Nice.
some other
Yeah.
people that get a little more up there. Um, but yeah, I just love still getting in there, and I actually plan to do more shows this year than I have in a long time. So I
Nice.
got two shows coming up this month, and then from there I'm gonna just keep booking some more. So
Nice. Well, I want to thank you for taking the time to do this. However, I've ended every interview the same. The day you decide it's all done, which I hope is anytime soon, but the day you decide it's time to call it quits, what do you want your legacy in pro wrestling to be?
uh, you know, well, I think I already got wrapped up. A couple of the things on my bucket list, like one of the top 10 worst tag teams in WWE history. Uh,
Wow.
things like that. So,
Yeah.
that's good.
Mhm.
So I got that going for me. No,
Yeah.
but I just honestly, I just want by the end of it all, I'd love for people to know, or more people to know, what, my, my true, abilities are as far as being an in-ring worker and personality, charisma, and all that stuff. That'd be cool. But I'd also, I look forward. I have a 4.5-year-old daughter that I'm looking forward to her, you know, watching me wrestle a few shows soon.
Nice.
Then she's getting a little older, and being proud of daddy and thinking it's cool that he did something and lived out a dream,
Mhm.
and it's one of the things I always you want to I want to make sure she understands is that daddy chased a dream, and I want you to do the same. Don't give up on things, and just, if you really want something bad enough, go for it. Um, but I think if anything, I just want to, more than, anything else, I just want to feel like I was proud of myself that I did what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And, and that I gave it everything I had, and I enjoyed it. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I want to thank you for doing this, man. I can't believe it when I reached out to you right away the next day. So thank you so much for doing this, man.
It's my pleasure. I always love doing podcasts.
Mhm.
I love talking wrestling. I love talking about, the business in general, and I love talking about fans and answering questions. So, I think when you're passionate about something, it's never not fun to talk about. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you for doing this, man. And thank you, everybody, for watching this episode. This was Best for Business.